What's up, everyone? Welcome back in to another episode of Sports Talk with Hawk. It is now midweek. We are officially at Wednesday. Wednesday morning, heading into week 8 of this NFL season. Thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to subscribe, like the video. Um, Make sure to ring the notification bell so that you get notified every time a new podcast goes live. Huge shout out once again. This is the third one, the third different screen that Draven made. Did the Stadium one for the Week 7 recap. And then here we've got the Week 8, 3 W's, 3 L's. Also done by him, and I like them. Really like them. The still shots are nice, but putting something that's just animated just a little bit is really cool. So I appreciate all the work Draven has put in to the graphics. Week 8 in the NFL season. The turning point. We have very few teams that are legitimately just kind of out of the playoffs. We have injuries that are changing how other teams look at the playoffs. So this week's 3 W's and 3 L's. For those of you that may not have listened before, 3 W's and 3 L's is really simple. The 3 W's are teams that lost last week that need a W this week. And the 3 L's are 3 teams that won last week that have to avoid a bad loss this week. And really, the number one on the 3 W's, I don't think this is going to be any surprise. I don't. But the number one on 3 W's is Atlanta. I said it last week. They were in my 3 W's last week, and I think now you're playing a Tampa Bay team that does not have Godwin, does not have Evans. You're playing a Tampa Bay team you should beat. Now, I read that they're trying to investigate the tackle that was made on Godwin as being a hip drop tackle. I have not seen any view of that tackle that indicates a hip drop. It was a football play. He wasn't swinging his body around trying to land on his legs. It's that simple. It's a football play. But neither here nor there. The injury to Chris Godwin, dislocated ankle, out for the year. Mike Evans is out till week 11 after the bye week. So Tampa Bay is going to be in a tough spot. Really, what it does is it gives Atlanta, it gift wrapped Atlanta the division. And Atlanta needs to take advantage of it. Needs to take advantage of it. They're on the road in Tampa Bay. Reality is Atlanta needs this W. They need it. Now, the second team that needs a W this week after losing last week, absolutely the Chargers. Uh, that loss 17-15 on Monday Night Football, that wasn't good. It just wasn't good. Uh, they need to get the win over the Saints. Now, Derek Carr is throwing the football again. Derek Carr is throwing the football again. He may play, which could make it hard. But Saheed is still out. Um, their main threat is going to be Kamara. You're going to need to score more than 15 points to beat the Saints. I believe you could run the ball a little bit better on the Saints. You should have been able to run on the Cardinals, but nonetheless. So here's the thing for the Chargers, though. When you look at this game, the Broncos are at home against the Panthers. The Chargers feel like they feel like a wild card team in the AFC. Let's be honest, there's not many of them right now. And I don't care what the standings are right now because the gauntlet and the meat of everybody's schedule is about to come up. There were a lot of teams that had the early cupcake schedule, and then the last half, you're in the freaking meat shredder. And that shredder can shred steak, not just ground beef. Like, it is a gauntlet. The next 5 games for the Colts are Texans, Vikings, Bills, Jets, Lions. Yeah, that's the next 5 for the Colts. The Steelers are going to get into their main gauntlet here in about 2 games. They're actually only 1 win above where I originally predicted them when I did my season prediction, because I had them losing most every game after week 10. So if you're the Chargers, you got the Saints back at home. Maybe you need to make a move at the deadline, strengthen up the team. You've got a team that can play. You got Justin Herbert, J.K. Dobbins. Um, yeah, you need receiver help. I wouldn't. I don't think I would do too much receiver wise. If there's a guy you can get, like Garrett, if you can go get Garrett Wilson from the Jets to be able to bring him in and have him play with Justin Herbert, I would absolutely do that. What 1,000%. That to me would be a very smart move to bring in Garrett Wilson. I don't think you're making a trade for Sutton. I don't think you're making a move for Judy. Um, but you need to win. You need to win. You're back home. You don't want to lose to a Saints team that really hasn't been good. They're one of the worst coached teams in the NFL. You got to beat the Saints at home. So number one, Atlanta Falcons need to win on the road against a absolutely tattered Tampa Bay team. And a team that just played on Monday night, too. And then the Chargers need to win at home against New Orleans. Now, the last team, the third team in the three W's. Three teams that need a W after a loss last week. It's going to feel like an oxymoron ish, but really it's the San Francisco 49ers. There is a lot, or I should say, there are a lot of questions about their toughness. Now, evidently, McCaffrey will be returning in 3 weeks, well, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks from now. So in 2.5 weeks, you're going to get your star running back. I don't think that's the problem. The blocking hasn't been as crisp. Mason's been running. I mean, shoot, there was just no room against the Chiefs until Purdy got the ball downfield, and then Purdy turned the ball over. No Debo, no Ayuk, and all Purdy had to do was be careful with the ball, and he didn't do it. That's the thing. You know, you don't want to oversimplify things, but the reality is that's really all he needed to do. Protect the ball, don't turn it over. Yeah, the field goal kicking has been, shaky. Jake Moody's out. He's still hurt, their main kicker. But really, that's all you had to do. Your defense played really well against Patrick Mahomes. And then they just got wore out. Simple as that. But the 49ers at home against the Cowboys coming off of their bye, they need this W. Because Seattle is currently looking pretty dang good. Now, Seattle's got a pretty tough test this week with Buffalo. But you're sitting behind Seattle by, we're going to call it a game and a half right now because they beat them once. But I think Seattle's getting stronger and San Francisco's getting weaker. I don't see it going the other way right now. I really don't. So, in this instance, I'm going to say 49ers need the W. They got to keep pace with the current division leading Seahawks. And we'll see how the rest of the season unfolds. All right. 3 teams that need to avoid a loss. 3 teams that won last week that need to avoid a loss this week. Number 1, Pittsburgh Steelers. Last week you played the Jets. This week on Monday Night Football, you got the Giants. You can't throw up a dud this week. You just can't. This is a game you should win. You have to avoid a bad loss. Back-to-back primetime games in Pittsburgh against both the New York teams. You need to avoid a loss to the Giants. Absolutely need to avoid a loss to the Giants. You are right now keeping pace with the Ravens. The Ravens are hot on your heels. And the Ravens are better. Like, when they play each other, there's no doubt in my mind the Ravens will win both games. No doubt whatsoever. But right now, Pittsburgh has the inside track potentially to the 5th spot. Now, I don't know currently who the 5th spot's going to end up being. I don't know if it's going to be Buffalo, Houston, Kansas City, Baltimore. Kansas City's undefeated right now. Odds are they're going to be one of the top 2. Odds are. Teams seem to decide they just don't want to play right against them. They're relying on their defense. Their offense is horrible right now. You play discipline ball against the Chiefs can't beat you. That's it. Pacheco isn't coming back yet. We still got a few weeks till he comes back. It's like the Steelers are in a prime spot because of how everything's playing out to get that number 5 spot, that first wild card spot. They got to beat the Giants. They have to avoid this loss. This loss would be horrible for them. So the number 1 loss to avoid, Steelers against the Giants. Number 2 loss to avoid, I don't care who's starting. I believe they should start Mariota. I think they will do just fine with Mariota. But the Washington Commanders against the Chicago Bears. Washington needs to avoid the loss in this game. It's fine if the battle of the number 1, battle of the top picks doesn't take place this game. Mariota just needs to come in, be consistent. They run the ball. The defense for the Commanders is becoming really good. You're seeing everything start to click, and they got an easier part of the schedule to get everything to work. The Cardinals. They got the Browns. They got the Panthers. They got an easy part of the schedule to get everything worked up. Now you've got this game against the Chicago Bears. The Bears coming off of a bye. I don't trust a young quarterback coming off of a bye the same as I do a veteran quarterback. I don't think Chicago is diverse enough to be feared of what they could come up with out of the bye week. They'll be healthier, sure. But all you have to do is get pressure on Williams. That's it. Keep him in the pocket. He's small. Keep the pressure on Williams. You have to avoid this loss. You are number 1 in the NFC East right now. Very few thought you could. I did. I knew you could do it. I fully knew you could do it. I believed you could. I liked the team that you were setting up. I liked how this team was built. and they're proving it right. And what's going to be the best thing is when Jaden Daniels goes to Jerry World and beats the Cowboys in Dallas. That's going to be big. But for now, go 6-2. At 6-2, you only need 4 more W's to get 10 wins. That's going to be wild card at the very least. The Eagles have issues. They're not buttoned up. They're not tight. So the number 2 team that needs to avoid a loss this week is the Washington Commanders. So the Pittsburgh Steelers need to avoid the loss to the Giants. The Commanders need to avoid the loss to the Bears. That's 2 of them right there. And then the third team that needs to avoid a loss after a win last week needs to avoid a letdown. The Cincinnati Bengals. The Philadelphia Eagles are in Cincinnati. This game, I believe, is going to be hard to bet because neither team really makes you think they're ready for playoffs. The Bengals, though, are at home against Philadelphia. The Steelers and Ravens are running away with the division. You've already lost to the Ravens once. Last week, you played the Browns. Didn't look great. If you're Cincinnati, I think this is the game you've got to avoid a loss with. This is a crucial game. NFC East opponent, playoff opponent, or I should say playoff caliber opponent. You've got to avoid the loss. You've got to avoid the loss. To me, this game really screams the measuring stick game. The Bengals lose this. They're fighting, they'll get out of the hole potentially. But like I said last week, guys, we could have 1 or 2 teams make the playoffs in the AFC at 8-9. The play from the quarterbacks, the play from the team has not been up to expectations. The Browns, gone. The Jaguars, Jacksonville's got Green Bay this week. I will say, if they can pull the upset over Green Bay, Jacksonville's season looks a little bit different. I will say, if they can get on there, they can pull themselves back into the playoff contention race. Still think Peterson's going to get fired, but they could. But the Bengals need this win to show they can beat a quality opponent. They got to avoid a loss after winning a division game on the road, coming home. Philadelphia Eagles aren't really buttoned up. They're not really together. You've got to avoid a loss. You have to avoid the loss. Stack back-to-back wins. It's got to happen. All right. So, the 3 L's, Cincinnati Bengals against the Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers against the New York Giants, Washington Commanders against the Chicago Bears. The 3 W's, well, Chargers over the Saints, The Falcons need to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the 49ers need to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And that is my week 8. 3 W's and 3 L's. So let's wrap this up with some injury and trade buzz news. So I dropped the bomb a little bit earlier. Teams are currently inquiring about Garrett Wilson. Teams are also really fishing at Myles Garrett for the Cleveland Browns. Look out for Chase Young and Demario Davis from the Saints, especially if they keep losing. Look out for the fire sale to happen trade deadline week with Chase Young and Demario Davis. Za'Darius Smith and Myles Garrett, Hassan Reddick, definitely there. There's been some talk that the Jaguars may sell. I wouldn't. The roster is really good. The defensive coordinator sucks. I wouldn't tear down what I've got. If anything, I'm trading the non-cornerstone, non-young players. Walker and Allen are the bookends on defense. They're staying. I may trade some of the other guys for extra fifths, maybe a fourth, whatever it may be. Travis Etienne has been inquired about with Tank Bisbee's absolute emergence onto the scene. So, a couple things have, transpired. When it comes down to it, I think it's going to be a busy trade deadline because of how dead cap works, because of the teams that want the spot in the draft. This isn't a draft for quarterbacks. It's a draft for everything else. Offensive linemen, plenty. Defensive players, plenty. Stack first round picks, and you could have your two anchors on your defense, defensive tackle and a middle linebacker. So I'm looking at this a little bit differently right now. I see how everything is playing out, and I see the potential for teams to really try to focus on defense, offensive fundamentals, and I believe it could work out pretty dang well. I really do. So there you go, guys. 3 W's, 3 L's. Trade mill is absolutely spinning out of control right now. Everybody trying to be the first on everybody. I know some teams have called, I know of at least 2 teams that have called the Colts about Alec Pierce. Lose the next 2 games. We will. Texans and Vikings, we stand no chance. Even with Jonathan Taylor and DeForest Buckner back, it doesn't matter. Played the softest part of our schedule. We got the Miami Dolphins at home. And we had them without Tua Tagovailoa. If Tua's there, the Colts get roasted badly. Like, everything has to be in context, right? The Chiefs and the 49er game, I was hearing this a lot over this weekend. The Chiefs and the 49er game, the context could have been Ayuk goes down with injury, Debo goes to the hospital during the game for pneumonia. That could be context. But then you realize the Chiefs don't have Rashee Rice. Justin Watson also tears his ACL, MCL during the game. Down to Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, and Hardman. And the 49ers had Kittle, Pearsall, Coing, Mason. Okay. They were even. But one quarterback didn't turn the ball over and the other one did. Actually, he did turn the ball over. 49er defense played very well. So context can be everything. The Colts were down at halftime 10-3. Tyler Huntley goes down with a shoulder injury, and he had burned the Colts with his legs already multiple times during the game. He goes down with a shoulder injury. Tim Boyle comes in, who is a just straight up pocket passer. And the Colts end up getting a W because they made some field goals. They win 16-10. You beat the Titans by, a great drive by Flacco. You beat the Bears barely. You beat the Steelers because of a fumble by Justin Fields. That Bears game, I still wish I could wipe that from my memory. That was one of the worst games I've watched in a long time. The sloppiness, the turnovers, like this is just, they're NFL players. That sloppy should not be expected. That simple. So context is still relevant, and it is still kind of everything. Got to look at everything through the correct lens. And that's how I look at my 3 W's and 3 L's for week 8 in the NFL season. And that'll be it. Tomorrow night, do top 10. Friday night, we'll do our picks. Looking ahead to a absolutely awesome week. Side note, Indiana University has the back-to-back responsibility of college kickoff shows this past Saturday against Nebraska in IU in Bloomington, Indiana. Fox Big Noon kickoff was there this week at home against the Washington Huskies. We've got College Game Day. IU sitting there at 7-0, going for 8-0, and a legit shot at 11-1. And if we can somehow muster the strength to knock off Ohio State on the road, they got a shot at 12-0. Absolutely pumped. I love it. I absolutely love it. Super excited. Super excited for Indiana football. All right, that's how we're going to end it off, guys. Thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe, like, ring the bell. And until tomorrow night for Sports Talk with Hawk, I am Hawk, and I'm out.